We're finishing out Unit 6. 6.5 is just straight factoring review. And then 6.6 is solving using the factoring. And then 6.7 is applications. So this is just a strict factoring review. So stuff we've already done. Then we're going to start with the greatest common factors. So in 12x minus 27, you're looking for a number or a variable that divides evenly out of both terms. Okay, so for 12 and 27, that's 3. All right, now I'm not going to write it down, but if you need to, you can write like this and see that 3 goes into 12 4 times. And 3 goes into 27 9 times. Okay, 16k minus 24, they have GCF, greatest common factor, of 8. 16k by 8 is 2k. 24 by 8 is 3. Getting into our variables, all the terms have to have the same variable, and then it's your smallest exponent, so that's the x. And 48 and 36 can both be divided by 12. And 48 by 12 is 4. X squared by x is x. And then 36 by 12 is 3, and then x will cancel. So 75 and 120. I don't know those ones off the top of my head, but I do know that 75 can be divided by 3. That's 25. And that 120 can be divided by 3, and that's 40. Okay, and I can see that these two share a common factor of 5. So putting those two factors together, 3 and 5, so the GCF is 15. And then we have x squared and x, so it's your smaller exponent. And then, of course, y. So 75 by 15 is 5. X squared by x is x. And then y by y reduces to 1. 120 by 15 is 8. And x by x is 1. And y by y is also 1. All right. I need, for a GCF, it has to be present in all 3 terms. So 4, 8, and 2 is going to be 2. X cubed, x squared, x is going to be x. Y squared, y cubed is going to be y. Okay, so 4 by 2 is 2. X cubed by x is x squared. Y by y is 1. 8 by 2 is 4. X squared by x is x. Y squared by y is y. 2 by 2 is 1, x by x is 1, y cubed by y, y squared. So 30, 12, and 6 is 6. We have x to the 4th, x cubed, x squared, so x squared. Y cubed, y squared, y, so y. 30 by 6 is 5. X to the 4th by x squared is x squared. Y cubed by y is y squared. 12 by 6 is 2. X cubed by x squared is x. Y squared by y is y. And then I am going to write this one out because I'm taking a 6x squared y and dividing it by a 6x squared y. Okay, 6 goes into 6. X squared cancels x squared. Y cancels y. It is not 0. It's 1. Okay, anytime you divide a number by itself, it's always a 1. Our next one up is our difference of squares. A squared minus b squared. Take their square roots, add, and subtract. So the first thing you have to do is make sure there's not a GCF to begin with. Then you check subtraction sign. You check if that one's a square, I'm just going to draw a square. 81, square root is 9. And then x squared. Even exponents are squares, so square minus square. Take the roots. And we add and subtract. No GCF here. We've got a subtraction sign. X squared is an even exponent. 25 is a square, and y squared is a square. So take their square roots. Add and subtract. Number 9's got GCF of 5 first, and then x, and then y. So 45 by 5 is 9, x cubed by x is x squared, and y by y is 1. And then 5xy by itself, 1. Subtraction. 1 is a square, 9 is a square, x squared is a square. So add and subtract the roots. And don't forget your original GCF. All right, and the last one on this, example 10, GCF looks like it's going to be 2x. So it's 49 minus 4x squared. That's subtraction. 4 is a square, and x squared has its even exponent. Take their square roots. And you keep the order. Square root of 49 was first. Add, subtract original GCF. When your leading coefficient is 1, okay, check for GCF. There's not one, and you can see that the leading coefficient is 1. Multiply the 1 by the negative 6. List your factor pairs. So you're looking for a factor pair that multiplies to negative 6, that adds. That's a negative 1 there. Okay, now we've got negative b. I'm just going to write down here negative b, negative c. This is big factor negative. Okay, so 6 and the 3, and that's going to be that one. If your leading coefficient is a 1, which it is, I can go right to my factor pairs and say x plus 2, x minus 3. If you don't recognize that, then you can still break it up. Positive 2x, negative 3x, bring down your minus 6, and your x squared. Factor by grouping. GCF of the first group, x. GCF of the second group, minus 3. Common binomial, so I have that here. And then whatever is left. Okay, either way it works. As long as your leading coefficient is 1, you're good. All right, leading coefficient on 12 is also 1. Multiply 1 by 78. Factor pairs. Let's see, 78 divided by 3. It's 26. 78 divided by 4 is 19.5, so that's not it. Not by 5, so 6. There it is, 6 and 13. Since it's all positives, we have positive B, positive C. This is all positive. Okay, so it's got to multiply. 78, add to 19. that's going to be your 6 and your 13. Your leading coefficient is 1. And go right to my factor pairs. Say x plus 6, x plus 13. If you want to factor by grouping, you can absolutely do that. Make sure put your x over there. Group. GCF of the first group is x. GCF of the second group is a positive 13. Common binomial. Whatever is left. All right, leading coefficient is also 1 here, so we're going to do 1 plus negative 27. Okay, it's a negative b, negative c, so we know the big factor is negative. So factor pairs, 1 and 27, 3 and 9, and that's it. There's my set. My leading coefficient is a 1, so I'm going to go right to my factor pairs and say x plus 3, x minus 9. Example 14's got a GCF of x. Leading coefficient's 1 times the 64. So 1 and 64, 2 and 32, 3, 4 and 16, 8 and 8. So it's got to multiply to 64, add to 16. And it's all positive, so I don't have to worry about my signs, and that happens here. And since my leading coefficient is a 1, I can say x plus 8, and your original GCF. On 15, you want to factor out a 3x. Leading coefficient is 1, multiplied by negative 10. So again, it's another negative b, negative c, so it's big factor negative. Let's multiply to negative 10, add to negative 3. Can I see that there? Leading coefficient is a 1, so I can go right to my factor pairs and say x plus 2, x minus 5, and your original GCF. Okay, factor out the 4x first, GCF. That's a lie, factor out just 4. Leading coefficient 1 times negative 20. So 1 and 20, 2 and 10, 4 and 5. We haven't done this one yet. Positive b, negative c is little factor negative. So multiply to negative 20. Add to 1. And I see that there. Leading coefficient's 1, so I can go to my factor pairs, say x minus 4, x plus 5, original GCF. All right, so that third section was when a was 1, a equals 1. Leading coefficient was a 1. So what happens when it's not a 1? Okay, multiply leading coefficient by the constant. Okay, so this time it has to multiply to AC. In this case, that's negative 56. And it has to add to negative 1. Okay, so we've done negative b, negative c. It's the big factor negative. Seven and 8. right, so little or big factor negative. On the factor pair that adds together to be -1. So that's here. Leading coefficient is not 1. All right, so I've got to break up this middle term. Okay, positive 7x, negative 8x. Bring down minus 28 and 2x squared. GCF of the first group and second group. So it's x. Minus sign, whatever is here, you bring down. In this case, that's 4. Because 8x divided by 4 is 2x. 28 by 4 is 7. Common binomial. Whatever is left. All right, now GCF on 18, excuse me, and its leading coefficient is an 8. So 8 times -5. Factor pairs. Positive b, negative c. Little factor negative. It has to add, so multiply to AC, that's -40. And add to 6. And I see that there. Include your x's. Then you want to take that 6x and break it up. -4x, positive 10x, bring down your -5 and your 8x squared. Group, first two and last two. GCF. GCF. And make sure you bring down your sign. Common binomial. Whatever is left. GCF first, so 2. Leading coefficient is 3 divided by 16. So this time we have negative b, positive c. This means both are negative. So it's going to multiply to AC, that's 48, add to -14. Okay, so both negative. There it is. Since the leading coefficient is 3, we need to include our x. Break this up. I guess w, not x. Group. GCF for the first group. GCF for the second group. And bring down your minus sign. Common binomial factor. And whatever is left. All right, last one, we're going to take an 8 out of this one. Forgot the original GCF. Okay. This one has an original GCF of 8. Leading coefficient 2 times 1. Positive or negative b, positive c. Both negative. This will multiply to a times c. Remember, that was 2 times 1. That's 2. Has to add to that b term. So negative 3. All right. Does that add together to be negative 3? Yeah. So break it. Group GCF of the first group. Your second group, that's a minus sign. Bring it down. And there is no GCF, so we bring down that 1. Common binomial. Whatever is left. And don't forget your original GCF, like I've already done it again. All right, so factoring by grouping, as long as your first 2 terms have a GCF, you can go ahead and start. 3 and 21 definitely share a GCF. So group the first 2 and the last 2. GCF of the first group, 3x squared. So x minus 7. Second group was a 2. Common binomial. Whatever is left. First 2 terms have a GCF, so I'm going to go ahead and group. GCF for the first group, x squared. GCF for the second group, y. Common binomial. Whatever is left. Okay, first 2 terms have a GCF. I'm going to go ahead and go. That's x squared. Second 2 terms, positive 1. Common binomial factor. And whatever is left. And our last one, as long as the first 2 terms have a GCF, you can go ahead and start grouping. First 2, last 2. GCF for the first group, x squared, so that's 4x minus y. GCF for the second group, looks like it's a 2y. Okay. Common binomial factor. And whatever is left.